I sat down on the white-painted wooden chair, facing my parents and my two younger brothers in the kitchen. I once called home. The familiar aroma of pot roast and garlic bread filled the air, bringing back memories of family dinners from my childhood. But tonight, something felt different. Nathan and Lucas, my twin brothers, leaned back in their chairs, their expressions unusually confident. My parents, David and Margaret, exchanged a brief glance before my mother finally spoke, her voice steady and composed. "We want to talk to you about an important decision." I set my fork down, sensing tension beginning to rise. "We've finalized our will," my father added. His tone was calm but lacked the warmth I was used to. "We wanted you to hear it from us now, so there's no confusion later." Nathan crossed his arms with a slight smirk. "To put it simply," he said, "everything goes to us." I froze. "What?" I asked, barely able to process his words. Lucas repeated it, as if it were a casual update. "Yeah, Mom and Dad are leaving us the house, the beach condo, everything. You're not included." The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of traffic from the quiet suburban street outside. I looked to my mother hoping she would say it was a mistake, but she simply gave a small, firm nod. "We believe this is for the best," she said, gripping the napkin in her lap. "You have a stable career, a reliable income. Nathan and Lucas are still finding their footing. They need more help." I turned to my father, searching for any sign of uncertainty, anything that might suggest they hadn't completely shut me out, but he kept his eyes on his glass of water, avoiding mine. A wave of emotion hit me, confusion, hurt, and something deeper, betrayal. I had supported them for years, paid off large parts of their mortgage, covered medical bills, helped Nathan and Lucas whenever they struggled financially, and now this. "So after everything I've done, you've decided I don't deserve anything." My voice trembled despite my effort to keep it firm. My mother sighed. "Evelyn, you always make things about money." I clenched my fists beneath the table. "It's not about money, it's about fairness. I've always been there for you every time you needed me. And now, just because I don't depend on you, you act like I don't matter." Nathan let out a short laugh. "No one forced you to help," he said. "You just liked being the one who Lucas joined in, chuckling. "Maybe you thought if you gave enough, they'd finally love you as much as they love us." His words hit harder than I expected. I looked at my parents again, silently hoping they would stop him, say he was out of line, but they didn't. Their silence said everything. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. "All right," I said. "If that's your decision, then I've made one of my own." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah, what's that?" I pushed my chair back and stood. "From now on, don't expect anything from me." I walked away, leaving behind the scent of garlic bread and pot roast, once comforting, now hollow. No one called my name. No one tried to stop me. That was when I knew everything had changed. I stepped outside the house I grew up in, but this time it felt like a stranger's place. The warmth of family dinners and shared laughter had faded. The door clicked shut behind me, final and undeniable. The night air was crisp, but my chest burned. Driving home, I didn't even turn on the radio. I needed the silence. Why was I even surprised? Hadn't I always known I was just the one they leaned on when times were tough? Back in my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, my hands shaking as I unlocked my phone. The conversation replayed in my head, every word cutting deeper. Nathan and Lucas were getting everything. I was the one who had paid for their missteps, covered tuition, sent money for emergencies, and now I was left with nothing. I opened my banking app. $1,900, the amount I sent monthly to my parents for mortgage and expenses. Another $1,200, regular support to my brother. They said I was successful and didn't need help, but what would they do without mine? I hovered over the recurring transfer section. My heart pounded. 1 second. 2 seconds. I hit cancel. A notification popped up. Recurring payments successfully stopped. Relief rushed over me, mixed with sadness, anger, and something unexpected. Peace. That night, I couldn't sleep. I thought about all the sacrifices, the vacations I skipped, the overtime I worked, the loans I never asked them to repay. And yet, when I needed just a sliver of appreciation, I got silence. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I finally answered. "Evelyn, did you cancel the payment?" My mother's voice was sharp, though she tried to hide the worry. "Yes, Mom. Because I realized I don't have to do this anymore." There was a pause. What do you mean? Families support each other. We rely on that money. I kept my voice steady. Mom, in this family, support only seems to go one way. I've been helping for years, but I never felt like I mattered unless I was given. You're being selfish, she snapped. Why are you acting like this over money? I let out a short laugh. It's not about money. If it weren't, you wouldn't need mine. Ask Nathan and Lucas to help now. Silent. I could almost picture her face. Not shocked, but offended at being challenged. I can't believe this is who you've become, she finally said. This isn't the Evelyn I raised. I closed my eyes. No, Mom. This is the Evelyn you never really saw. I hung up before she could say more. Emotions swirled inside me. Sadness, freedom, even guilt. But I didn't feel like answering her next call. Or my father's. Or my brother's. I wasn't their provider anymore. Later that day, messages came in. Lucas, what the hell are you doing? Nathan told me you cut the money. Is this some kind of joke? Nathan, you're a traitor. Don't expect any of us to treat you like family again. I didn't reply. Because now I saw the truth. I was never really seen as family. Just as support, a bank account with a name. I stepped onto the balcony. The night breeze touched my skin. Cool, calming. I took a deep breath. This was the right choice. And nothing would make me go back. I stared at the screen. Then more messages flashed. Nathan, you're ungrateful. Mom's crying because of you. Lucas, you think you're so smart. You'll regret this one day. Nathan, don't bother showing up to our parents' funeral when they're gone. I read each message. Anger bubbling beneath my skin. Not one apology. Not a single question about why I did it. They didn't care how they had treated me all these years. They were just angry that I had stopped funding their lives. My phone rang again. Dad this time. I let it ring. Then I turned the ringer off. I opened my settings. Blocked Nathan. Blocked Lucas. Blocked Mom. When I was done, I set the phone down, closed my eyes and exhaled. Silence filled my apartment. A rare and unfamiliar peace. No more ringing. No more messages filled with guilt. No more manipulation. I stepped onto my balcony, breathing in the crisp morning air. This peace felt foreign, but also incredibly free. For the first time in years, I was truly free. 3 weeks passed in silence. No more relentless calls. No more guilt-laden texts from Mom. I started to believe. Maybe they had finally accepted the truth. I was no longer their financial safety net. But then, on a Friday evening, a message appeared on my screen. Mom, family meeting, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Don't be late. Short, cold, no explanation. I stared at the message, a sinking feeling in my chest. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but a smaller, quieter voice whispered, what if this is a chance for real change? Maybe they were finally ready to have an honest conversation. So, I went. The moment I stepped into my parents' house, the tension hit like a wall. Nathan and Lucas were already on the couch, arms crossed, faces cold. Dad stood near the fireplace. Mom sat in her usual armchair, eyes red and puffy. Before I could speak, she did. Mom, Evelyn, I don't understand you anymore. Her voice trembled. How much further do you want to go in destroying this family? I frowned. What are you talking about? Dad sighed. You've put us in serious financial trouble. If you keep being this stubborn, your mother's going to break down. I laughed. But there was no humor in. So now I'm the reason Mom's exhausted. What about all the years I carried this family financially? She seemed perfectly fine then. Nathan scoffed. You always make everything about money. Do you really think the world revolves around you? Lucas leaned forward, voice sharp. Come on, you have a good job, a comfortable life. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? You're just paying the price for being selfish. Their words cut deep. I had come here hoping for a real conversation, a chance to heal, but all I found was the same manipulation, the same pressure. I took a deep breath, steadied myself. If this is why you called me here, I said slowly, don't waste your time. I'm not coming back. My mother blinked, stunned. What did you just say? I stood up, took one final look around the room. I've done everything I could to be part of this family, but if my worth to you is only measured by how much money I bring in, then I don't need that kind of love. No one said a word as I walked toward the door. No one stopped me. I left for good this time. 2 days later, I got home late, and I knew something was wrong the moment I saw my door. The front door had been sealed shut. Thick, industrial foam covered the frame and handle. I touched it hard and cold. Someone had done this on purpose. My heart pounded. This wasn't a prank. This was a deliberate act, meant to keep me out of my own home. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my phone and opened the hallway security camera app. I fast-forwarded through that evening's footage. And then, I saw him, Lucas, wearing a hoodie and a baseball cap, trying to hide his face. But I'd know that posture anywhere. He smirked as he sprayed the foam, filling every crevice of my door. My hands shook with rage. I called the police. When the officers arrived, I handed them the footage. One of them looked up and asked, "Do you want to press charges?" I tightened my grip on the phone. A chill ran through me. If I let this go, it would only get worse. Lucas hadn't just crossed a line, he'd obliterated it. I took a breath. Steady. Clear. "Yes," I said. "I want him held accountable." The next day my phone rang again. I ignored the call. Then came another. "Dad." Then Nathan. Finally, I picked up. "Dad. Evelyn, your brother got called in by the police. How could you do this to your own family?" His voice was sharp, angry, but I answered calmly. "Lucas vandalized my property. If he doesn't want to face charges, he needs to pay for the damages." My father's tone dropped. Strained. "How much?" $3,000. I said without hesitation. "How could you extort your own brother like this?" I let out a dry laugh. "It's not extortion, Dad. It's called consequences." The next morning, $3,000 hit my account, along with a bitter message. "I never want to see you again." I read it, felt nothing. A notification lit up my phone. A message from a distant relative. "Evelyn, is it true? People are saying you abandoned your family even though they're struggling." I frowned. Another message followed. "How could you cut off your parents and brothers like this? They took care of you your whole life." I opened social media, and it all made sense. My mother had posted a long dramatic Facebook story, twisting the truth beyond recognition. She claimed I had turned my back on them in their time of need, that I was selfish, cold, obsessed with money, that I left my aging parents and struggling brothers with nothing. The comments were full of sympathy for her. People who didn't know the real story chimed in. "So sad when successful kids forget where they came from. Parents sacrifice everything, and this is the thanks they get. Money must have gone to her head." I didn't care about the strangers. It was my family, rewriting history that stung. They left out the part where I paid most of the mortgage, the tuition bills, the vacations, the new cars. They didn't say a word about Lucas vandalizing my door, forcing me to call the police. They painted me as the heartless daughter, who walked away. I sat quietly, thinking, should I ignore this? Let them control the narrative? No. I had been silent too long. I opened the app, tapped new post. If they wanted to go public, fine, then I would tell the truth. I laid everything out. Every dollar I'd sent over the past 10 years. The mortgage I'd helped pay. The tuition. The personal expenses. The vacations. The cars. I explained how I had become their ATM. Not a daughter. Not a sister. I described what Lucas did, sealing my door with industrial foam. The police. The footage. The aftermath. And then I wrote, I didn't turn my back on my family. They never saw me as part of it. Unless I was giving them money. I've chosen to stand up for myself. That's not betrayal. That's survival. I hit post. Within hours, it blew up. Relatives started messaging. Some were shocked. They said they had never heard this side before. An aunt messaged me privately. Is it true you supported them all these years? Others began calling out my mother publicly, accusing her of manipulating the truth. But the strongest reaction came from my immediate family. Mom called. Immediately. I answered. She was furious. Nearly incoherent. Evelyn, what the hell did you just do? I stayed calm. I told the truth, Mom. You posted your version, I posted mine. She was breathless. Outraged. You're humiliating this family. Your father won't even leave the house. Have you thought about how this makes Nathan and Lucas feel? I clenched my phone. Did they think about how I felt when Lucas vandalized my home? Did they care how I felt breaking my back for years to pay everyone's bills? Silence. Then, as always, she turned it back on me. You're destroying this family. Her voice grew cold. If you do this, don't expect to come back. We're no longer family. I closed my eye, took a deep breath. No, Mom, You destroyed this family, not me. And I hung up. No tears. No regret. For the first time in my life, I felt peace. I had lost my family, but maybe they were never really my family to begin with. That phone call with my mother was the last time I heard her voice. After my post, everything went silent. No more angry messages. No more furious calls. It was as if I had never existed. But this time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. At first, the silence felt unfamiliar. The evenings I used to spend solving my family's problems were now mine. No more desperate late-night calls. No more cancelled plans. No more being dragged into their emergencies. I poured myself into work, laser-focused on a major project at my company. I wasn't surprised. They had built their lives around the assumption that I would always catch them when they fell. But now, with that safety net gone, they were finally facing the consequences of their choices. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No urge to fix it. Only a quiet clarity. They had made their decision. So had I. Life moved forward. I traveled more. A weekend in Prague. A solo hike in the Dolomites. A quiet beach escape to the Amalfi Coast. Each trip felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Alex and I kept in touch. Sometimes we met up abroad. Sometimes we just shared late-night calls, filled with laughter and stories. There were no labels. No pressure. Just two people choosing to show up for each other. At work, I thrived. I led my team with confidence, launched a new initiative, and even mentored young women entering the field. For the first time, I wasn't surviving. I was living. Then, one gray afternoon, I received a letter. Not an email. An actual letter. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable. My mother's. I stared at it for a long time before finally opening it. Evelyn, we're not doing well. Your father's health is deteriorating. He refuses to see a doctor, but I can tell he's not the same. Nathan barely speaks to us these days. And Lucas, well, he's still trying, I suppose. I won't pretend we didn't make mistakes. Maybe we expected too much of you. Maybe we forgot you were a person, not a provider. I miss you. Your father does too, even if he'll never admit it. If there's any part of you that still remembers the good times, please call. Love. Mom. I folded the letter and sat in silence. Was this guilt? Was this sincerity? Or was it just another attempt to pull me back? I didn't know. But what I did know with unwavering certainty was that I no longer owed them anything. Not my peace. Not my energy. Not my life. Maybe one day I would forgive them. Maybe I'd even speak to them again. But if I did, it would be on my terms. Not out of obligation or guilt, but from a place of strength. For now, I placed the letter in a drawer. Not out of anger. Just closure. And as I poured myself a glass of wine and watched the sun dip below the skyline, I realized something. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. I no longer felt responsible for them. They had the chance to change, to learn independence. But they didn't take. Now they had to face the consequences of their own choices. I once thought that spending Christmas without my parents and brothers would make me feel lonely. But as the holiday approached, I realized I had people who truly cared about me. And that was what mattered most. I decided to host a small gathering at my apartment. Aunt Daisy arrived early, carrying a box of homemade cookies and a warm hug. I'm so proud of you, Evelyn, she said as I welcomed her inside. I smiled. You're the only one in the family who has ever said that to me. Daisy looked at me with a mix of understanding and sadness in her eyes. I just wish they had realized your worth before it was too late. I didn't respond. Instead, I poured her a glass of wine and invited her in. One by one, my friends arrived, bringing wine, desserts and laughter. That evening I laughed more than I had in any other Christmas before. No forced conversations. No pressure to meet anyone's expectations. Just me, happy on my own terms. When the clock struck midnight, I stood on my balcony, gazing at the twinkling city lights, and felt something I had never truly felt before. No more invisible burdens. No more feeling used. Just me, my life and the people who truly loved me for who I was. And that was the greatest Christmas gift I could ever receive. I sat in my armchair, watching the city lights reflect off the window. Outside, the world kept moving. Cars and people filled the glowing streets. But inside, there was a stillness I had never known before. I had once believed that family was everything, that I had an obligation to sacrifice for them, no matter how they treated me. I had convinced myself that if I tried hard enough, if I gave enough, they would finally accept and love me. but the truth was far different. Family isn't defined by blood alone. Family is made up of those who appreciate you, those who don't take advantage of you, and those who love you without conditions. My parents, Nathan and Lucas, had never truly seen me as family in that way. I thought back to when they cut me out of the will, as if to make a final statement that I was worth nothing to them, except for my money. They believed that would break me, that I would beg for their acceptance again. But what they didn't realize was that they had unknowingly given me the greatest gift of all. They severed the last remaining tie between us. They had set me free. I had once been a woman burdened by responsibility, expectations and sacrifices that were never appreciated. But now I had the power to choose my own life. I could go anywhere, do anything, and never again worry about a call demanding money, or a guilt trip for not obeying their wish. I could spend time with people who truly loved me, friends who stood by me even when I had nothing left to give, an aunt who had quietly supported me all along. I could love and be loved freely in a way I had never experienced before. My eyes drifted to my phone on the table. There were no missed calls from my family. They had let me go, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of that. I picked up my glass of wine and took a slow sip, feeling its warmth spread through me. I had once lived for my family. Now, I chose to live for myself. And that wasn't selfish. That was freedom. Evelyn's story is not just personal. It reflects a reality many people face. We grow up believing that family is the safest place, that love always comes with responsibility. But the truth is, family bonds don't always mean appreciation. Sometimes walking away isn't selfish. It's the only way to protect yourself. When you are constantly being used and your sacrifices go unrecognized, you have every right to put yourself first, because in the end, this life is yours. What do you think about Evelyn's story? If you were in her position, would you keep sacrificing for family, or would you walk away to find yourself again? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel so you don't miss more meaningful stories about life and family.